Hello everyone, welcome back to coderinboots. Today we are going to discuss about how to deploy multiple web applications in a single server. So let me give an introduction about this deploying multiple websites. So almost a decade back, even I was not aware of the concept of deploying multiple web applications in a single server. So that time we used to deploy web applications in one application per server, and if you are in need of deploying multiple application, I used to do redirections and the routing within the application itself. But later I learned the concept of the technique of virtual host in the web servers, and with that I was able to deploy multiple applications. And with this technique I have deployed almost several hundreds of applications in a single server itself. So it's up to the capacity of the server. We can deploy any number of web applications, websites with a different domain, different user interfaces. So whatever it is, for the end user it looks like a completely different application itself, but we can deploy everything in a single server. So here I'm going to explain the technique or the concept behind that. So the concept behind that is called, the terminology is virtual host. So you can search about this topic, virtual host. So this is configuring virtual host. This technique is available with almost every web server. So it is there in Apache, it is there in Nginx. So whatever web server you use, you search for the configuration of virtual host. So you will get the steps. So here I am going to explain the steps to configure virtual host in Nginx Web Server. So I have an Amazon EC2 instance with me. So I'm going to install Nginx right from the scratch, and I'm going to configure or deploy multiple applications here with multiple domains and certificates. So let's start. Okay, so maybe before starting, so I'll give you an overview how this works. So this is, assume this is our server, and here this is the web server. Okay, server. Okay, so inside that we have assume we use Nginx. Okay, so here we can deploy multiple applications with domains like abc.com, okay, pqr.com, xyz.com, etc. And we can deploy the web contents associated with that here. Okay, so web content means basically the HTML or whatever, JavaScript, the entire web bundle. So what will happen is, when the request comes from outside, okay, let's say if somebody is calling abc.com, so what will happen, the request will be routed to this one, okay, and it will go to the corresponding web directory. The content will be served. So internally this web server will take care of isolating the request. If somebody is calling for pqr.com, so what will happen, it will hit here, and then it will render the contents from the corresponding web directory. Similarly, the same will happen for xyz.com also. So the web server performs the magic. So it isolates, it's creating like a virtual environment. Okay, so it's virtually creating a separate host within the same server itself and isolates these applications. So we can have we can configure the SSL certificates associated with this. So these domains, it doesn't need to be the subdomains of the same parent domain. It can be any domain. Okay, that's why I have given abc.com, pqr.com, xyz.com, and abc.com will be associated with an SSL certificate that is specific to abc, pqr.com specific to pqr, xyz specific to xyz. And we can do all kind of isolations and all kind of security or other configurations specific to each of these domains. Let's say abc.com, you wanted to basically implement a set of constraints. Okay, so maybe let's say I want to restrict the users to access only from US. So I want to restrict the IPs limited to US alone. So what we can do in abc.com, I can make this configuration. So what will happen? Any request coming outside United States will be rejected. pqr.com, I wanted to accept request only from a specific region, or maybe I can put some other constraints. So everything is possible. So instead of provisioning separate servers and deploying it in separate servers as separate applications, we can deploy in a single server. It's using the concept of virtual host. So this is very useful, and personally in my some of the projects that I have worked on previously, I have deployed 60, no, not 60, like I mean it is more than 100 applications in a single server itself. So if your UI is lightweight, if it is not like a very heavy like I mean kind of CPU memory consuming UI, you can deploy large number of sites in a single server, and that too like I mean and do like I mean you can share the server in this way. So this is very convenient. Okay, so now let's get into the action. So let's get into the server. So this is my EC2 instance. So I'll have to install the Nginx right from the scratch. So I'm going to install, this is an Ubuntu machine, so I'm going to install Nginx Web Server. The same concept is applicable for Apache Web Server as well. So here I'm going to explain about Nginx. Apt-get install Nginx is to install the Nginx Web Server. I'm giving yes. Okay, it's installing the Nginx and the related packages. It will be ready soon. Okay, now Nginx is ready. Let's check the status of Nginx. Okay, so Nginx service is active and running. Okay, so now we are good. Now what we need is, let's check the status of Nginx. So here, this is the IP address of the machine, 54.242. Let me put the IP address in the browser. So okay, I can see the default home page of Nginx. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to create two domain names. Okay, so one is, I'm going to create site 1, okay, and I'm going to attach this IP address. So this is, I'm using Google domains. So you can do the same thing in your domain provider. So I'm using Google. Similar, I mean, you will be able to see similar page in your domain service provider also. So I'll have to put in both these subdomains. Okay, I am using subdomain because my parent domain is already used for a different purpose. So I'm using site1. If you see this, it is site1.coderinboots.com, the site2.coderinboots.com, and both are pointing to the same IP address. Okay, both are pointing to the same IP address. In production scenarios, it could be like even a load balancer also. In my case, like I'm going to explain it with a simple server. Site 1, site 2, and these are of type A record. Okay, so remember, I mean there are so many types, but here ours is going to be A record, site 1, site 2. So let me save this. So it will create two entries. One is site1.coderinboots.com, second is site2.coderinboots.com. Okay, so now let's go back to the server. Site1.coder. So here, okay, let me see site 1. It's HTTP. There is no HTTPS. Site 1. Okay, yeah, it got reflected. It's up. Site 2. Here right now both are, since I just did the mapping, what will happen is both will render the same default page because it doesn't know where to route. So now let's get into the Nginx. Okay, so cd, where is the Nginx configuration? It is in cd/nginx, cd/etc/nginx. Okay, this is the directory where all the Nginx configuration resides, and this default configuration is in Nginx conf. If you see here, so if you see, okay, so this is the so it will pick up configurations from these directories. One is conf.d /etc nginx conf.d and /etc nginx sites.enabled. So anything with star.conf, it will be picked up. Okay, anything with .conf extension, it will be included. Okay, also anything present inside the sites.enabled, that also will be picked up. Okay, so let's see what is there in the conf.d. So there is nothing, empty. Okay, so this is basically, here is the place where we can add additional configuration files. Okay, so let us create a configuration file. So how to create the configuration file? We need a template, right? So that template we can get it from the sites enabled. Okay, sites enabled. If you see, there is a default file. Okay, so this default file, if you see, what is the entry over here? here the entry is by default it listens on 80, okay, and it has a web directory, root directory where www.html, okay, and so nothing else, rest all are commented. So what we are going to do is we are going to copy this default configuration file cp default, okay, to I am copying it to conf.d. I am copying it to conf.d and what, site1.conf, okay. So let's go to conf.d, site1.conf. In the site1.conf, what I'll do is I'll remove default server. Okay, so I'll do /var www. I'll have to create a separate directory for the site1. I don't want the HTML. Okay, and here server name, what I have to do, I have to specify site1.coderinboots.com. okay, and remember another thing, so our web directory, it will pick up all these kind of extensions, okay, index.html, index.htm, okay. So and this is the default file where it renders the Nginx home page. We don't need this. I'm going to remove this one, okay. I'm fine with the remaining two. So server name site1.coderinboots.com, okay. Rest all looks fine, it's all commented configuration. So similarly what I'll do is, and we need to create the directory, right, mkdir /var www site1. We created the directory. Similarly I need to copy the site1 to site2.conf, okay. Now what I need to do, site2.conf I'll open, and here I'll have to make the change. One is the web directory site2, and next is the domain, okay, the server name I'll have to modify site2, okay. So remaining there are so much of options. Depending upon what you need, you can customize, you can add the additional configurations here, but I'm not going to do that right now. So I'm going to explain the simple one. And if you see now the conf.d directory, you can see site1.conf and site2.conf. As both of these files are having the extension, if you see the default Nginx configuration, so in the default configuration you see there is a section that includes everything with conf extension, .conf extension. That means site1 and site2 will be picked up. Both the configuration files will be picked up. Now let's create the directory, the root directory for site2 also. Okay, site2. Okay, now we have the web directories for site1 and site2. Now let's go to the web directory of site1 and site2, not HTML, site1. Okay, we don't have any content right now. What we'll do is index.html. I'm going to create a sample file here, HTML, simple HTML file. Assume this is your website. Okay, so here I am going to create a simple heading. Welcome to site1. Okay, welcome to site1. So this is my index.html in site1 directory. Similarly, what I'll do is the same thing. I'll copy it to site2 directory where www site2. Okay, now what I'll do, I'll have to modify this to welcome to site2. Okay, now we have both the configurations ready. Now we have the contents for both these websites ready. Now we have the web root directories for both these websites ready. So now let's restart. Reload. Okay, we have reloaded the website Nginx. Let's check whether Nginx is running fine or not. Yes, it is running. If there are any configuration problems, it will fail. Okay, and you will be able to see the error message in this logs, or if you want to see in a detailed way, you can go to cd/var log Nginx. Okay, so here you can see access log, error log. Okay, so one more thing I forgot to mention. Okay, now if you want to monitor, okay, so okay, before getting into that, let's see whether the website is up or not. So now let's refresh site2. You see site2.coderinboots.com. You can see welcome to site 2, and let's open site 1. Okay, this shows site 1. That means the requests are getting routed to the individual root web directories, the web contents, depending upon the domain. Okay, the web server is managing it. Now you see, let's verify the logs. Okay, you see the request came from, both the requests came from the same server. So but it routed to the server based on the domain. Okay, you see one came to site1.coderinboots.com. okay, and the second one came to site2.coderinboots.com. when it came to site 1, it routed to the corresponding web directory, that is site 1, and when it came with site 2, it was routed to the other one. Now in a production scenario, what will happen is, if you keep all the logs of all these virtual host in a single log file, it is going to be very difficult. We will not be able to monitor it in a proper way. Okay, so for that, what we need to segregate the logs. We need to create site specific logs. So what we'll do, we'll go to the Nginx logs configurations. Okay, conf.d site1.conf. let's see what is there in site1.conf. so here, if you see, there is one configuration that is for logs. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll add it here. What I'll do is I'll copy the default configuration from Nginx. So in the Nginx conf, if you see inside the HTTP section, okay, if you see inside the HTTP section, so we have something called access log, error log. Okay, so what I'll do here is I'll copy the same thing to here. Okay, access log, error log, site 1 _ access log, site 2 _ error log. Okay, so I have added the access log and error log to separate file. One is, site, instead of site 2, it is site 1. It is for site 1, right? Site 1.error log. This is for site 1. Similarly, I'll have to do the same thing for site 2 as well. So let's try. Anyway, we have added for the first one. Let's try reloading the Nginx service. Nginx reload. Just check. Let's check whether it got reloaded and started fine. Yes, it is running fine. Okay, that means our configuration. There is a way to validate the Nginx configuration before we restart. Nginx-t. Okay, this will validate the configuration. If there is some problem, it will say like it's invalid. So I'll show you, like, let's say if I remove this bracket, okay, this is an error. Nginx-t, what will happen? It will show server has no opening bracket. Okay, Nginx configuration test failed. So this is how to test the configuration. I'm keeping the brackets back. Okay, now let's validate it again. Nginx-t. Okay, now it is Nginx configuration. Syntax is okay. Test is successful. Okay, let's reload service Nginx reload. Okay, now let's make request to site 1. Okay, site 1. I am just doing a reload, and now let's see where log Nginx. You see, now we have separate logs for site 1. Site 1 access log, site 1 error log. You can give any name, you can give any other different directory also. So like this, you can route the log files of individual domains to specific files. In this way, it will be neat and clean. So in this way, your logs will be separate, your domain, your web directory, everything will be separate. Now let's install. So I think we have completed the deployment part. Now let's go to the deployment of SSL certificates. Okay, so here I am going to show the deployment of SSL certificates through certbot. So if if you are just deploying a normal website which is not dealing with very critical data or sensitive data, it's okay to go with Let's Encrypt. but if you are dealing with like very highly critical, highly sensitive data, it's always better to go with some paid certificates which is provided by some there are, I mean, various certificate providers, certificate authorities in the world. You can get it from any of those certificate authorities. So what happens is with this SSL, without SSL, what happens, if you see, if you open the website, you can see it's showing not secure, right? The reason is the traffic is going in simple HTTP communication, and because of that the payload is not encrypted. Payload means right now this is in this website, if you see here, we are not entering any user data, it is just a view only page. But let's say, think about like this page where we enter some data, or let's think about your internet banking page, so where you make transactions, you enter some data from the UI, so and server is also giving back data to you. Okay, so in this case what happens, sensitive data is getting transferred between the client and the server. So if the data is going in plain text, it will be visible just like your text. Okay, so like, I mean, you are just like, I mean, your plain text, right? Hello, let's say like, I mean, I'm sending a username, password, username, coder, password, it will go in simple plain text. Okay, so if I am encrypting it, then any man in the middle cannot decode it or read it. Okay, so that is the reason SSL is very important. So if you are deploying any website, never ever deploy without SSL certificate. Okay, so let's install certbot. So I'm going to install the Let's Encrypt based certificate using certbot. So certbot, if you type, by default it might not be here in the machine. Certbot, no, certbot is not there. So what we'll do is we will install certbot using snap. Okay, so if you see in the suggestion itself, you can see, right, snap install certbot. Okay, I'm going to install certbot using the snap. Okay, so I just need to use an option classic. So it's going to install certbot. Okay, now certbot is installed. Bot -- Nginx. Okay, my web server is Nginx. So if you are using Apache, then you'll have to use like -- Apache. So I'm just running it. Okay, so this is the first time installation, so I'll have to enter my email address. Okay, so agree. Okay, I just gave example.com, that's why I did not accept. What I'll do is I'll have to put like a proper email address. So I'm just running it again. Certbot -- Nginx. I'll have to use a proper email address. Okay, so now yes. Okay, now it gave me options, what all sites I need the SSL certificate to be deployed. I can give comma separated or space separated names. I'm selecting option number 1, option number 2. Okay, so that means I need the certificates for coderinboots.com, the site1.coderinboots.com and site2.coderinboots.com. Okay, so I'm going to get certificates for both of these, and these certificates are valid for 90 days, and every 90 days we'll have to renew. And certbot will help us to renew automatically if you set a cron job. So you can set cron jobs to automatically renew the certificates from the server itself, so you don't have to worry about the renewal part. Okay, now you see requesting a certificate for site1.coderinboots.com and site2.coderinboots.com. And now if you see, it has modified the configurations of site 1 and site 2. It has modified. Okay, and also like, I mean, it has generated the certificate which has the domain site 1 and site 2. Okay, so you see, this is like, I mean, it created the certificate site 1 full chain and the private key, both got generated. Let's see what change happened to the configuration. Okay, so let's open the configuration. So what this will do is, if you see, it has added some additional configuration to the config file. You see, it has added the listen 443, then certificate. It has pointed to the certificate file, certificate key, okay, and also like it has added an additional configuration in the option SSL Nginx conf, and also the DS param. This is the key. Okay, so these many items it has added, and on the right hand side you see anything added by certbot, you will see a comment managed by certbot, Okay, so these are the entries added, and also here if you see it has added another thing. This is the redirection. So initially our website was operating on HTTP traffic. Now if you see any request which is coming to this particular one, it is redirecting to the HTTPS domain, HTTPS URL of the same one. Okay, so that means any HTTP traffic will be redirected to the HTTPS URL. Okay, so that is with 80. So if you see at the top, the 80 will be commented. Initially our server was with the entry 80. Now if you see, they have modified it with 443. So the default one is 443, and the one with 80 they have commented. Commented means any request coming to this 80, it is redirected to HTTPS. Okay, so let's reload the Nginx. Now let's check site1.coderinboots.com. So you see, now you see a log, the insecure warning is gone. Okay, now it is with site1.coderinboots.com. Similarly, let's refresh. This was the initial HTTP. Let's refresh the page. Okay, now it came with the log, padlock, and site2.coderinboots.com. So now we have both the sites ready in this single server, okay, and which has different SSL certificates, different domains. It doesn't need to be like the same subdomain, the subdomain of the same domain. It can be anything, okay, and it can be managed by different service providers, domain service providers. Anything is fine. So this virtual host is a powerful feature, and it can be used to deploy multiple applications in a single server. I hope this video is very helpful for you, and if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. You can comment in the below the video. I'll respond back to the comments. Thank you very much for watching this video. Subscribe to this channel for more interesting videos like this. Thank you very much.